Why I don't think people go to hell, part 3. Hey, my name's Josh. I was a conservative evangelical pastor for about 8 years, was involved in church for over 30 years, and here's what I think about the teachings of Jesus on hell. It's important to ask this question, what does Jesus teach about hell? Because I see a lot of people talking about how they want to get rid of the Bible, they don't really like the rest of the Bible, but they still think Jesus is a good guy, they still kind of adhere to the teachings of Jesus. Well, Jesus talks a lot about hell, and so it's worth asking, what does he teach about it? And the answer is, extremely conflicting things. Things like this from Matthew chapter 25, look at verse 46 at the bottom, and these will go away into eternal punishment, but the righteous into eternal life. In this passage, it seems like Jesus is talking about an eternal punishment. But in this passage from Matthew chapter 10, verse 28, he says, and do not fear those who can kill the body but cannot kill the soul. Rather fear him who can destroy, operative word, destroy, both soul and body in hell. Here, Jesus seems to think that there isn't an eternal punishment, but that you are destroyed in hell. The theological term for this is annihilationism. But also this one, look at this from John chapter 12, verse 32, Jesus says, and when I am lifted up from the earth, I will draw all people to myself, all people to where he is. Does Jesus go to hell? No, Jesus goes to heaven, okay? Now, before Christians come at me for this one, look at the previous verse. It says, now is the judgment of this world, now will the ruler of this world be cast out. When he says world, he's referring to all people. So in one verse, Jesus seems to say that hell is eternal. In another, he says that in hell you're destroyed. And in another, he says that everybody's coming with me to heaven. What are we to do with this, Jesus? Here's a couple conclusions that you can draw. First of all, if you still think that the Bible is infallible, meaning that there are no flaws in it, just throw that out. It's inherently false, and demonstrably, just from these passages, shows that there's like some contradictions in here, meaning one of these, logically at least, is wrong. Here's the second conclusion. Jesus doesn't teach anything on hell that can be systematized. You can't make these all fit together, and I think that he does that on purpose. In these passages, he's not trying to teach us about hell. They all have a different rhetorical goals. Therefore, it's really hard to draw conclusions from the teachings of Jesus on hell. It's worth noting that historically, these teachings conflict each other because there was no systematized idea of what hell is. It wasn't a question that they asked. You likely know people that hold conflicting political beliefs, but still hold those beliefs. And it's just because it's unexamined. They haven't thought it through. Jesus didn't live in a time in which people had thought this through. There was no systematized, coherent teaching on hell. It's worth noting that in other Jewish literature from this time, some authors seem to think that it is eternal conscious torment. Some writers think that it's annihilation, and some writers just don't even mention it. Like it's not a thing for them. Now, there are going to be those who will look at that Matthew passage and say, well, see, look, Jesus does say that it's eternal. First of all, that's the only place where Jesus says that the punishment is eternal. Elsewhere, he says that the fire and the worm are eternal. And second of all, why would we give that verse precedence over the other verses that clearly reflect the nature and character of God in a better way? I'm going to have to do another video on this.